Well, for more on this, we're now being joined by former Indian diplomat Ashok Sajanhar. Mr. Sajanhar has worked for the Indian Foreign Services for the last 3 decades, and he's currently the president of the Institute of Global Studies in New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Raisha. It's always a pleasure to be with you on WION.
Likewise, Ambassador. Now, the next 5 days will see India's relentless diplomatic outreach from the ASEAN-Summit to the G20. Talk to us if there is any common agenda in all these meetings.
Well, as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, I'm sure he is reveling in all this work, because as we have seen him over the last not only 9 years, but since the time he came to public life, he is a workaholic. He, revels when there is more work, when there are more challenges, and he creates those, converts those challenges into opportunities. Now, as far as ASEAN, the East Asia Summit is concerned, he will be, this will be his 9th participation there. And most of the members, of course, from the ASEAN also, there are a few members which are members of G20, like Indonesia itself, which is the host of the East Asia Summit and the India-ASEAN Summit this year. But amongst the other dialogue partners, there are so many of them who are also members of G20. For instance, Australia, for instance, South Korea, Japan, the United States, of course, is not going to be, Mr. Biden is not going to be there in person. China and Russia, these are all members of G20. So there is going to be, when meetings take place there, of course, some bit of discussion on that. But basically, the focus is going to be on taking the partnership with the ASEAN in the India-ASEAN Summit, taking that forward. It is the 20th meeting of the India-ASEAN Summit. ASEAN is a very significant partner for India in a large number of areas, whether it is economy, whether it is connectivity, it is trade. So I think how to take new initiatives, and particularly, as you mentioned, the new maritime security initiative, that is going to be a very important element that Prime Minister Modi is going to be discussing at the India-ASEAN Summit. Rahish.
Absolutely, Ambassador. And also, how will all these summits and high-level engagements position India in the changing geopolitical order?
I think it will give a huge boost to India's standing and India's position as far as the geopolitical order is concerned. Because as we see, the world has been going through a very tumultuous changes over the last many years, whether it is with COVID-19 or it is, and the lingering impact of COVID-19 is still being felt in a large number of countries, particularly in developing countries. And then, of course, the impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which, of course, in G20, we don't discuss the geopolitical issues, but then geo-economic issues, financial, trade, development and growth. These are issues that we discuss in the G20. So India has dealt with all these challenges in a rather commendable way. And the whole world has high expectations from India's presidency of G20, because, as I said, India has been able to acquit itself very creditably while dealing with these challenges. And also, India is seen as a very credible partner, because we see that there is a huge polarization in the world taking place today, whether it is between the North and the South, that is developed and developing world, and also East and West, which pits Russia and China on one side and the United States and the Western countries on the other. So India can really act as a bridge between all these different groupings. And so India has that credibility amongst developing countries as also amongst the G7. So there is great expectation that India's presidency of the G20 will be able to deliver some very important outcomes in areas which are of recent origin, as also systemic issues like the climate change, like debt, which have been with us for quite some time. Rahisha.
Absolutely, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights with us on this. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you.